Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Christian Music Bros podcast. I'm Brendan once again, and this is my lovely co-host, Braden.
Hey, everyone.
And today we have a guest speaker with us. We have Trevor Tyson, who hosts the Trevor Talks podcast.
Come on, let's go. We're on the Christian Music Bros podcast. Let's get it. Thanks for having me, guys.
You're welcome. Thanks for the excitement. It's cool to have someone being really pumped and excited to be here.
Here's the thing. How can you not be pumped to come on the Christian Music Bros? Answer that. I'll wait. Kevin McNeese, tell him.
But so basically this week's episode is going to be a little different from what we usually do. We're going to just sit down with Trevor, talk about his journey throughout music, his life journey, and talk about overcoming anxiety and having hope. We'll talk about some songs that can help you overcome those things and meaning for those songs. Braden, you have anything you want to say before we start with this podcast episode?
Yeah, thanks everyone for all the love throughout the journey. We're excited for this episode. Stay tuned to listen to some amazing songs to check out, songs of hope, peace, and really overcoming all these fears and anxieties that we all go through and face.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to add, Trevor, before we get rolling?
No, I'm just pumped up. If we can help people get through a hard time and provide some just hope, encouragement, some resources, so many people out there need it. Heck, we need it at times. I don't think this podcast or my podcast would exist without that need and that desire to hear these things. So look at you guys. And now on the flip side, at one point in your life, you were listening to other podcasts for hope and encouragement. Now you're able to provide it. And it's just a thrill to be a part.
And it's exciting because we listen to other podcasts and then we make our own. So it's everything goes full circle together and everything just to produce content and resources for anyone that needs them.
Exactly. Well, I'm stoked, guys. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Okay, so first off, we're going to talk about you. So feel free to introduce yourself. Give us a little background about what you do and what made you who you are today.
Yeah, so my name is Trevor Tyson. I am a 25-year-old from a little town in Georgia called Social Circle. You heard it right, Social Circle. I don't know how many people live here now, but the last time I checked, it was 2,000 or something like that.
That's about a quarter of my graduating class, or not a quarter of my graduating class. I mean, my graduating class was 650, but so
yeah, we had 200 people or 180 at the max in my senior class. So from a very small town, always had that attraction towards music and the back end of it, artwork, creative rollout strategies, etc. And just to make a long story short, I started serving in my community at a local church first, and then started serving at Winter Jam events when they would come to town, and ended up interning with a big ministry and touring across the country with Hillsong United, Jesus Culture, Crowder. It was Outcry Tour 2015. Look up the lineup. It was nuts. Lauren Daigle opened the show. That's how the tables have turned since then. So that was 2015. And, I just really felt this burden on my heart. Okay, there's something to do with music in there. I don't know what that is, right? So after I graduated high school in 2016, before I graduated high school, while I was a senior, I started struggling with anxiety and depression. It was a very dark time in my life, but I will say that the 3 years that, as I would say, I let anxiety defeat me, I was able to live normal life, right? So I was working for AT&T, selling phones, became a store manager at a very young age, bought my house. On the outside, it looked like I was living the American dream. On the inside, it was just slowly decaying. I hated waking up in the morning, etc. And then about 3 years into that, God called me back into this venture, as I would call it. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what it looked like, but I trusted him and walked towards it. And then now, mind you, it's been maybe 5 years or more since then. I have a media agency. I've got a podcast, and I just want to encourage people. We do an event every year called Choose to Live, which we've got the little poster back here, where we just have a bunch of friends and friends of friends come together, and we have a big suicide prevention powwow. Last year we had Chris Kale from Five Finger Death Punch, Sonny from POD, Brian Head Welch from Korn, Lacey, formerly of Flyleaf, Spencer Chamberlain of Under Oath, just all these major rockers like, hey, we're going to come together. We're going to talk about this very needed topic around suicide prevention because so many people out there are struggling. And I know that because I've struggled. I've struggled with that ideation. I've struggled to get past that. And I know how harmful it could be, like, to one's mental health and then to one's family, like the people around you. They don't want to see you hurting. So that's kind of like just a brief overview of who I am. And music has always been that outlet for me to receive hope and encouragement. And it started with the band Skillet around 2010 with the song Monster. And it progressed from there. So Skillet was the gateway, not drug, but the gateway artist to get me into like, hey, I really enjoy this stuff. I love hearing it. How can I help either create it or communicate it with the world? And it all started there.
I think that's something like everyone can relate to. Like everyone has their own anxiety or suffer some sort of anxiety, even if it's something minor, everyone can relate to. I know, like, personally, I've dealt with anxiety at points. I've had a friend who's passed away from suicide and everything. So I know it's something everyone can relate to. And it's a tough thing to go through, but we just know there's always a light at the end of the tunnel and better things will come.
Yeah, and it sounds cliche, quote unquote, because everybody's like, oh, there's always hope, there's always this, there's always that. But no, like, genuinely, if you stop and think, somebody out there loves you. Somebody out there wants to see you happy and choose to live another day. It can be hard to see at times, but that doesn't mean that those people aren't there. Somebody out there loves you. They want to encourage you. They would rather talk to you than mourn you at a funeral or such. So, like, even just an encouragement to people listening, like, if you're struggling with that stuff, there are so many resources out there for you. One of the most notable would be heartsupport.com, free resources available for days. And then death2life.com. They've got some amazing resources, including a 24/7 chat. So there's always someone out there that wants to talk to you. They want to hear your voice and they want to help you overcome whatever struggles you're going through.
And for those people who are listening, I'll drop some links in our description for the podcast episode. So if you are struggling, we encourage you to reach out and try to get the help you need. Brad, do you have anything you want to add very quick at this moment?
Definitely, yeah. Like, these are all real issues, even though they almost seem taboo in churches and everything. These are things that we all go through. Like, I've dealt with anxiety too. I dealt with depression, and I almost took my own life many years ago. And like, the power of music, the power of that love of Jesus, and just through his love, like, we all know that we're loved, we're called, we're chosen. Even if you don't believe it, you are still loved. There's still people in your life who love you, who have purpose, who can help remind you of that purpose that God's given you. Even if you don't recognize it yet, you matter, and your life has a story that's worth living out.
And just a reminder, your life matters no matter how crappy you think your life is or how down you think it is. Things will get better. I promise you that. You talked about a little bit of Choose to Live. Can you give us a little more background on like what that was or how that came to be?
Yeah, so Choose to Live started off as Choose Life in 2021. Yeah, 2021. And we collaborated with Heart Support to create a live stream event. The first year it started on Twitch, and we had some more guests come in, more so in the rock and metal space. So it was right up my alley. I love rock and metal music. In fact, I'm wearing a Conviction shirt right now. I love those guys. Go check them out. Conviction is amazing. And if you're not into metal, go just read the lyrics. Like, it's meaningful stuff. I argue to say that metalcore is some of the most vulnerable music out there, just because it's so in depth and meaningful. So we started, and the idea for Choose Life came from a collaboration from one of my close friends and clients. Lacey Sturm was on this song with Love and Death, which is Brian Head Welch's side project. The song's called Let Me Love You, and it's a cover of a Justin Bieber and DJ Snake song. So at the end of it, they put #Choose Life. And I was like, there's not a campaign behind this. And I created a campaign and I sent it to Lacey and her husband, Josh, and JR from Love and Death. And then Head got involved, and then we put in Heart Support. And it just kind of like everybody was on board, and I was super surprised. I was like, wow, people actually care to run with some of these ideas. How could we do it better? So last year we did Choose to Live. We took it over to YouTube exclusively. And the first, like, for the live stream, we had over 40,000 people tune in, which was nuts. Like, I have a screenshot. I think the exact number, like, for the people that tuned in live was 39.4 thousand. And then now, like, since then, another 5,000 have watched it on YouTube. And I'm like, I'm just a kid from Social Circle. Obviously, there's a lot cooler names on the bill than me, but God used that to help people overcome those issues. But it's not a Christian event. We have Christians, atheists, agnostics, universalists. If we're going to come to the table and talk about suicide prevention, everybody's coming to the table. This isn't your typical, hey, we're going to partner with a Christian outlet and provide an evening of preaching to those who are depressed. It's like, no, like, we're going to provide hope. We're going to provide encouragement, and we want to help love you through it. And honestly, like, it's some of the coolest nights I've had in my life, or creating that event, and just the people that have chosen to rally behind it. We had the Whosoevers, Sunny Sandoval's Youth of the Nation Foundation, Death to Life and Heart Support jump behind it. And I don't know, maybe 2023 will be a whole lot bigger than last year. But I'm just stoked that, honestly, just to have a cool poster like that with my name, with a bunch of heroes that I grew up listening to, especially Adam from Saint Asonia, formerly of 3 Days Grace. That was a whole full circle moment. I've got the song Never Too Late tattooed on my wrist. So for him to come on and play that song for a suicide prevention event that we were able to create as an agency meant the world to me. And just encourage people out there, like, no dream that you have is too big or too small. If you're realistic about it and actually put in the work, like, people will back it. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's literally like, hey, here's the message we want to portray. Would you like to be a part?
Yeah. And going off of what you said about metal music and like their lyrics, I think like there's a lot of great bands that capture a lot of like overcoming anxiety, hope, and have like a really good like theme about like just your life is not alone. I'm talking specific, like the most common name that comes in mind to me is Disciple, and their side project Honoring Glory. Like Kevin Young does a great job, great speaker. He mixes rock with worship, and then just like talks about his battles too. Like, I know it's powerful for him.
Yeah, like, we had Disciple close out Choose to Live last year with their song Invisible, which was a huge song for me. Like, getting into all this stuff, I was like, there's no other song I'd rather end this year than with Invisible. And then now they have Promise to Live, which is a huge, just, it's an anthem for the broken. It's an anthem for those who need that message, which is millions of people out there. So like, make me a promise to live.
I was just about to say that. I saw it, they performed a song at Winter Jam this year. I don't know if to you this year, but like I was looking up for the song, like I found the lyrics, I was looking up the song, I was like, I can't find it anywhere. And then I found out they released it like 3 weeks later, because they were in Winter Jam like January here, like besides the point. But so I was like, this is a big, powerful song. This is going to change so many lives. And if you're struggling and you need some music to help you overcome, this is one song I would recommend reaching out. And or any other of the Disciple stuff. They're like really good music, can change your life. I know there's a couple of their earlier albums have changed a lot of people's lives, like, and now they're like side projects have been changing lives, like from like just hope. There's always hope at the end. Brad, and you want to add anything?
Yeah, Disciple definitely is one of those amazing bands with the message of hope. On that note as well, there's other bands as well. Like, I know so many people have been impacted, like you mentioned, Trevor, about Skillet, which they've impacted my life, and so many others. Also, Memphis May Fire, not entirely Christian, but their music changed my life, especially their album Unconditional.
Yeah.
So many songs on that. I remember seeing and hearing the impact that so many people were getting touched, how it was rescuing some people from suicide, and also Maddie Mullins, the foundation Beneath the Skin. Like, I love what that team has done. Like, it's just so cool when you see these bands not just preach a message, but they were living it out, that they're actually helping people know how much they're loved and they have purpose. Even when it goes a ways that the industry's not really going, they go that way because that's where people need to hear it.
Yeah, and when you think about these bands that have faith-based elements in their music, like Memphis Mayfire, August Burns Red, Convictions, Relent, The Protest, etc. Like, it doesn't have to be the most like, oh Jesus music in the world. Like, you brought up Unconditional by Memphis Mayfire, which is one of those albums for me as well. There's a song on there called Divinity that I'll just listen to that song over and over and over and over, and just on loop. Like, I'm that weirdo that'll listen to the same song like 8 times in a row just because it means so much. So like that album in particular, like Unconditional, touched a lot of people. And then they just put out a new record this year called Remade in Misery. And we're all going through that, especially like through the pandemic and all. We were all going through a lot of misery, like whether you're a social butterfly and you're locked in your house, etc. Like, heck, I run my mouth so much, I had to start a podcast to where I could talk to people. So it's just really amazing. And one of these artists that I wanted to bring up, actually, I recorded my first maybe 12 to 15 episodes in this dude's house, Stephen Stanley, who he created the intro and outro music for the podcast, which a lot of people don't know. He edited the first probably 12 to 15 episodes of the podcast, and now he's blowing up in the CCM world. He just had an amazing song come out called I'll Carry You with Tommy Prophet, which if you, the listeners and y'all haven't heard that, you got to look it up. The song Heal, No Hopeless Soul. The dude's just got, and Heavy, like a lot of these songs are mental health based. You got to look this stuff up. Like, there's so many artists out there that are making such an impact, but they don't fit that radio mold. Like, there is an algorithmic gatekeeping thing happening within the Christian music arena, K-Love, all that stuff. Like, a lot of labels can pay for their artists, newer artists, to get played, but some artists just don't fit the mold for that radio format. Disciple, Seventh Day Slumber, Stephen Stanley, The Protest, like, they're not going to get that love and exposure right off the bat. So it's really important for like shows like ours to embrace them and love them and help them communicate these messages to where they can get butts and seats at shows, to where they can sell merch, get streams, to where they can continue doing what they do. One thing a lot of people don't talk about is it's hard for artists, especially in the Christian market, to make a living at all. A lot of them are still working full-time jobs and touring in vans on the weekends and stuff. So find these artists that need your support and be sure to support them. Go buy some merch. Like Disciples got some amazing merch out, Seventh Day Slumber, all these bands, like, go check them out, love on them. If you've got a few extra bucks, help them put some gas in the tank to where they can get to your city and just continue to reach people for the gospel. The unspoken truth behind Christian music, at least probably the first 10 years for most bands, are just hellacious. It's hard to make a living. It's hard to tour. And unfortunately, in the Christian market, it's a whole lot harder. So support your local musicians, support Christian artists, support people that are just giving purpose, giving love, giving encouragement, and encouraging people to choose to live. Because at the end of the day, they're saving lives and they're providing us with some amazing anthems to live by.
And one of the bands you didn't like just bring up, one of the bands I think that are kind of like the mold, like they were really popular like in the Christian rock world, but you don't hear them on the radio. When Flyleaf was together, that was like a big one, like with their album like Arise, and then I can't think of their other albums on top of my head right now because I'm drawing a blank.
You've got Flyleaf self-titled, you've got Memento Mori, you've got Remember to Live, which was an EP, which is a hidden gem for most Flyleaf fans, and then New Horizons. Arise was on Memento Mori, and Memento Mori is my favorite Flyleaf record to date. Between Arise and The Dark and Again, Beautiful Bride, so much purpose in that record. Like, God, don't be stingy. Go listen to something you wouldn't normally listen to. You have to like Lacey Screams or you're just not a Christian, It's just a common knowledge thing now.
And like that's like really the first other than Skillet, because like, to be honest with you, when Skillet was at Winter Jam, like 2013, I was just getting into Christian music. Like I was always participating in youth group, and I had no idea who Skillet was when I first went to Winter Jam. I know it's shocking because like everyone's no Skillet, but then like Flyleaf was actually like the first band I actually listened to outside of Skillet for the rock genre, because I was like, I want to explore more. I was always a rock fan. Like Shinedown's one of my favorite bands.
Oh, me too, brother.
Like I had front row seats to see Shinedown like earlier in the year, but last year like we got front row seats now. But like, so like I was like, I want to try listening to more Christian rock or hard rock and try to figure out. So I went to Flyleaf, went to Firefly, I went to like Disciple, 1,000 Foot Krutch, Family Force 5 in a way, somewhat.
Well, I love that you bring up Shinedown because they're not a Christian band, but they just had a record come out last year called Planet Zero, and there's a song on it called Daylight that just.
Good.
Oh, sorry.
I had a comment. I was going to had a comment about the song.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the song Daylight is amazing. And then the heaviest song on there, I'm not sure if it's the cleanest thing in the world, but it's called Dead Don't Die, and the riffs on it are just phenomenal. So Shinedown fans over here.
I was gonna bring up Daylight. I was gonna say, even if you're looking for hope or whatever, Daylight's one of my songs. I have it on all my playlists. Even I have it on my Christian playlist, just because even like just like it's like one of my awareness songs. Like there's one of the most popular lines in that song is "Have faith, you're not alone." So this kind of goes with the premise of what we're saying in this hope. Like there is hope. You're not alone. Seek help and whatever. And then I know the lead singer has suffered a little bit of his own trauma in the past and everything. So, yeah.
Well, and the encouraging thing is like, just because someone's not Christian doesn't mean they're them, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the Christian market, you hear like, you've got us and you've got them, you've got Christian, you got mainstream. If God created music, like the enemy can't really take that away from you. Even when people are out there like, we're satanic, this, that, like, the music is still God's. Every single sound comes out of our mouth is glorifying him in some certain way, shape, or form. So speaking of bands like Shinedown, speaking of bands like August Burns Red, speaking of bands like Flyleaf, Firefly, etc., there's so many bands out there that have these positive and loving, caring messages. You just gotta love it to a certain extent. Like, music is a huge thing for me. And one of the discographies I've been diving into as of recently is of Mice and Men, which it doesn't fit the Christian genre at all, but like just the emotion in the music. Like I encourage people, like, don't be so judgmental just because something isn't Christian or someone's not Christian. Like, don't cringe when you hear a curse word. Like, you don't have to agree with it, but just try to see it for what it is, music, as art. Try to hear what they're saying. Like, people have different worldviews than you. Like, shocker, Democrats, Republicans. You can find something about each that you absolutely love. You find something about each that you absolutely hate. Just because you voted for Trump doesn't mean you can't read Michelle Obama's book and get knowledge from it. Just because you voted for Joe Biden doesn't mean you can't read Sarah Huckabee Sanders' book and gain knowledge from it. If we limit ourselves from being able to learn from other people with different worldviews, what are we doing? Like, we're not growing together. And when it comes to music, like one of my favorite records within the past year is the Naomi Raines Journey record. There's so many songs of encouragement and hope on there, and I love them. And then Taya put out an amazing record last year. So just circling back into the Christian Music Bros platform here, like, there's so much music of hope out there. There's so much music out there that's just reflecting love back to God. Lacey from Flyleaf and her husband Josh have this side project called Reflect Love Back, and it's all acoustic worship. Check that out. Holy Name is a huge name right now in Christian metal. Just debuted at #1 on the Christian and gospel charts on their debut record. Like, come on. There's so much encouragement, hope, and just love out there for you. So dive in, find bands you don't listen to all the time. Have an open mind. Love people. Be generous.
Brad, do you have any things you want to add very quick?
I mean, what you're saying, like, that's right the nail on the head about it. Like, I'm the guy who grew up with the only Christian labeled. You'd listen to that. So then when I started going to like Skillet, and my parents were a little bit like, and then Memphis May Fire, and like even now a little bit Sleeping with Sirens, a few other bands, because there's so much hope found in them. And it's really good, like you said, trying out different artists. Like, you don't need to buy all their stuff and do it, but you can see it for what it is, and you can see the hope in it. Like I have friends who listen to screamo metal that's completely not Christian, and but I mean, there's so much hope in there. There's so much. They'll come and they'll show me these lyrics, and I'm like, wow, I love how God's using that. It's completely different, but God's using that to impact you. Like the story of hope goes, it's through Jesus, but it goes through so much more than how the Christian world is. Because like you said, it goes through music, it goes through our words, our actions, and hope can be found in so many other areas. It doesn't have to have the Christian label to be that. I think hope's an entire new label that God, he's of course over, but it's found in so many other ways as well.
Yeah. And it's insane. People are like, is that a Christian podcast? And it's like, I've never once classified my show as a Christian show. I'm a Christian. I have a show. We have a lot of Christians on it. You start to limit yourself when you start to just like, oh, this is only for this amount of people. True believer, you know, like you're supposed to go out and make disciples and such. Like, I feel like God's given me a unique opportunity in the rock and metal space and in the Christian space individually, like for their own. And it's like, how do you steward that? Because I'm still figuring it out. I'm not perfect. I'm not a pastor. I'm not going to dive into it. Like, I'm not a pastor at all. So what are we doing here? Like, are we going to love on people? Are we going to share the love of Christ? Are we going to reflect love by our actions? Or are we just going to like stand in an echo chamber within the four walls of the church and just echo the same things to each other and it never leave there? That sounds really boring to me, honestly. I couldn't do it. So,
and
I don't
or
know.
like for people that are not like rock, like big rock metal fans, there's bands like, let's see here, U2 has some hope themes. Mumford and Sons' album Guiding Light, I don't know if you ever listened to the album, but that's a great album to dive into. It talks about premise of hope and being loved and everything. That's a great album I recommend. Lifehouse is another band that I think of on top of the head, that like early on Lifehouse right there. So like, just because their band's not classified Christian, they have Christian themes. So like everything about Lifehouse is like one of the songs I instantly think of. Like they're surrendering it all, they're giving hope, like showing hope.
Yeah, and there's this newer band. It's going to be newer to the Christian rock space, newer to music in general. They've been a band probably about 10 years now, but be on the lookout for it. They just signed with Rockfest Records. They're called As Fire Falls. They'll have music coming eventually. They just finished up recording a record, and it's so good, just so good. Like, there's so many young bands that are about to just be birthed into the world, and there's also people creating music that you already know and you already love that you never knew would ever create music. Like, there are projects happening behind the scenes that you're going to be like, they're a musician, and they're going to be like, I didn't know it either. So like, it's insane. There's so many awesome bands on the horizon. There's so many new songwriters. Like, everybody can be creative. You just have to make time for it. You have to learn it. You have to trust that if you feel called to do something, give it a shot. Like, what do you got to lose?
And like one of my new favorite side projects, Brett and I discussed this a few episodes ago, but Real Gone Cold, like with their new song, that's like a big upcoming band. If you're
oh yeah, but you got members of POD, Demon Hunter, The Letter Black, Attack, Disciple, so many.
Everything.
I mean, it's a super group. It is a super group.
And it's just really cool. Like, if you want to talk about some Christian bands that have a lot of hope in their songs, Come As You Are by Crowder's one song that that's one of my go-to songs. Tell Your Heart to Beat Again by Danny Gokey's another one I think right off the bat. Or Dear Younger Me by Mercy Me. Like, I have, like, Mercy Me is one of my favorite bands. Like, I've seen them like live like 3 or 4 times, and every time, like, just Bart does a good job giving you hope throughout the set. Like, Dear Younger Me is like one that I just brought up. Even If, such a good song. Fun fact, that was co-written with Crystal Lewis, who it was huge in CCM in the 90s, and she's had a new record come out too. Fun fact, before the podcast started and even evolved, I was touring for 2 tours with Mercy Me, promoting the I Still Believe film, which was Jeremy Camp's biopic, until the pandemic shut it down. So I heard Even If, I don't know, like, and I heard Mercy Me set
probably 40 something times, and it never got old. Just like, even if night after night, and then Almost Home, like every single night I'm just like, ah. And some of my favorites from like Hillsong United are the Of Dirt and Grace album, where they stripped back Even When It Hurts, and even the original version of that, oh man, just so good. And then the song Getaway from Taya on her new record is such a healing song, and that came straight from scripture, which I didn't know until I was listening to the Dwell app one day, and it was like, are you worn down, lacking inner peace, like etc., like get away with me. That's all straight from scripture, and I was so shocked. And they're about to do an amazing tour. Did y'all see Naomi Rain and Taya on Fox and Friends the other day?
I saw briefly. I didn't catch it, but I saw it. Like Natalie Grant's with them on tour and
Yeah,
everything.
and Tasha Cobbs Leonard, and they just added 2 more to that tour. It's a huge thing, but they did a collaboration on Fox and Friends, I believe on Sunday morning, of Oceans and Gyra, and it was nuts. So if people didn't see that, they got to go check that out. I was just like, amazing.
Definitely, that was beautiful.
Brett, you have any songs that you want to talk about that like hope?
There's so many in the Christian genre, even like just so many through like softer stuff like Switchfoot. Of course, we have to mention them because there's songs like I Won't Let You Go. It is a beautiful one, along with so many artists like you mentioned, Stephen Stanley and his songs, Heavy, his song The Heat. They've been such encouraging songs to me. There's also so many new artists coming up, especially like Grace Graber, Rebecca Lauren, and just so many independent names whose music has touched me extremely by the hope in it, that, and also the honesty. Like there is anxiety, there is depression, and this is not, again, it's not a taboo subject. These are things we struggle with. And there's so many songs, even from like major artists, that are just touching. Like you mentioned, Jeremy Camp's movie, I Still Believe. And that song, back when it came out, it was huge. It really rocked the genre because there wasn't songs really coming out from that point of view, from that broken state. And yet, like we're seeing it now, that even though we're broken people, God uses music to heal us. But it first comes from honesty. Like we are messengers. Maybe it's okay. That's one of honesty that really touched a lot. I love seeing that move throughout the genre so well.
Yeah, and Lauren Daigle, like her song Inevitable is it's highly, I wouldn't say underrated, because Lauren Daigle like is just massive at this point on a global standpoint, not even just in the Christian genre. She is so amazing. The song Inevitable is so good. And we can't forget Cutlass. Like they just came back from a 5-year hiatus and put out the 20 EP to celebrate their 20 years. They went through and did the songs Your Touch, Run, and I think I can't remember what the other song.
I think it might have been Hearts of Innocence. I could be wrong.
No, yeah, like check out the 20 EP, but they have 2 singles out now that are just hard rock, like Words of Fire and End of the World featuring Kevin Young and Disciple. It'll make you want to punch a baby, but you can't, because that's harmful. You can't do that. You just have to enjoy it and mosh in your house. Like it's such good music. And there's so many bands out there that are just so good. It's hard to explain them all. Like, and I apologize if an artist is listening and they're like, "Why did they bring me up?" And it's like, I'm sorry. Like, there's only so much time in these conversations.
And there's just too many. Like another 2 that I'm like, it is Why God by Austin French. It's not one of his most popular songs, but it's one song that gets to me like every year. If you has ever listened to that song, that's like a big, powerful ballad. And then Through All of It by Colton Dixon is another one. Colton Dixon was like on American Idol before that. Then he transformed slowly into Christian music. So kind of like Danny Goki. He was kind of mainstream then. Like I think, don't quote me on this. I'm sorry if I got this wrong. We're recording, so I apologize if I'm making a mistake. But Danny Goki had a mainstream record called like My Best Days or something.
Country. It was country.
Yeah, country. It was country. Then I think he had his first wife passed away. Then he transformed into Christian music from there. And like just Danny Goki's like story inspires me. Like I said, brought up "Tell Your Heart to Beat Again," or there's the songs like "Rise" or all those songs. Like that's just big. And Danny Goki lives like he has a lot of hope, and he tells he's big on his wife's foundation or late wife's like foundation. Like he has I can't think of the name of the foundation right now on top of my head. I'm drawing a blank. But like
Sophia's Heart, I believe.
What?
Sophia's Heart, I think.
Yes, but that's like a big thing. Like hope, like he lives his life. Like hope is like a big theme in Danny Goki. And I think Danny Goki's one of those artists that captures if we're talking about, if you want to listen about art about hope, Danny Goki's like one of the artists I would recommend you like just to listen to, like if you listen through his straight through discography.
Yeah, like even on his latest record, Jesus People, there's 2 songs on it that just blow me away, like from the start. We had him on the show when it came out, and like we dove into these 2 songs in particular. He Believes in You and Stand in Faith. Like even the music videos for those are just so touching. Danny's got such an amazing voice. Obviously, he was on American Idol. Same as Colton Dixon. That record in particular, I don't know. It just translates so well, and I love it. So those 2 songs in particular hit home for me.
Yeah. And a couple like other artists I would recommend, in my opinion, like obviously, like I said, Crowder has a couple uplifting stuff like within his album as Neon Steeple, like there's Come As You Are, I Am, Waterfall's Chris Tomlin, my bad. But like Chris Tomlin's another artist I was gonna bring up. He has a lot of powerful songs. And then Taryn Wells is another one I like listening to. Like Taryn Wells has a lot of good themes in his songs.
I listened to one of his songs yesterday with Jen Johnson, Famous For. Oh man, so good.
Mm-hmm. Also,
like,
Brandon Lake, even though he's one of the biggest names in worship, released a mental health project called Help. Highly recommend. It's definitely different. It's got worship, alternative rock vibe. It's really definitely a must listen.
Yeah, and when it comes down to like rock and such, like even August Burns Red, I wouldn't classify them as a Christian band, but a lot of their music is faith-based, and there are Christians in the band, and obviously it translates into the lyrics. But Jake Lures, who is what they call a front man, because he's screaming, not necessarily like singing. He is branching into that, I should say. He has a nonprofit called Heart Support, and I brought it up a little bit earlier because it's one of the leading forces in like mental health in the music scene. They just did their first major festival called Heart Support Fest in Orlando last week. And if you go to Heart Support Fest on Instagram, you'll see all these drone shots and stuff. Secular festival, secular rock, but every single person that graced the stage had a meaningful message of hope that you should keep living, etc. And the whole festival, the whole organization is all about getting people the help they need. So if you're looking for nonprofits to donate to, consider Heart Support, consider Beneath the Skin, consider Death to Life. There's just so many amazing organizations out there. Yeah, like check them out, and they support artists as well. So
and there's so many great resources too you can find online. We discussed that earlier, or you can go talk to someone. Like if you're struggling, people are going to listen to you. Like I never had someone in my personal life say, I don't have time to talk to you. I have people, they'll clear your calendar for you, or they'll try to find time to fit you in.
Like, yeah, so many people are like, oh, they don't have time for me. And I argue that all the time. I'm like, you've always got time if it really means something to you.
Exactly.
Like you can clear your calendar.
Brandon, you have anything?
I think you guys all summed it up nicely, especially like we're gonna try to put some resources in the bio of the YouTube description. So check that out, because there are people out there willing to listen. There's like I've been through therapy, I've been through the trauma, the depression, and yet there is hope. There is so much hope on the other side. So don't just hide these things in. Think life does get better. Things do get better, but it starts with being honest, that and acknowledging when we feel these feelings, and there's gonna be someone there to help you through it. So don't ever give up.
And
that's so good.
Personally for me, like I like taking walks sometimes. So like I live like right off a nature trail, and I just like to clear my head. Sometimes it's nice just to sit, take a walk, or go find somewhere to sit, write down, just talk to yourself, listen to music.
I've got something crazy you can do to better your mental health. Go
ahead. I'm all for crazy ideas.
Ice baths and ice cold showers, cold exposure therapy. If you're ever groggy or depressed, anxious, jump in that ice cold shower and let me know that you're still depressed, because I'll be really surprised. Like there's no way to get out of that without just having, like, for me personally, I'll get out and it's just like, like you're so cold, you don't care. You don't care. And that's just a switch for me. Like if I were to turn a light switch on, that's me getting out. It's like, that helped me take some weight off. Right. And then be honest with people. Like,
Mhm.
if you need to have a conversation with somebody, even if it seems hard and aggressive or whatever, have the conversation, communicate.
Yes. And
Yeah.
like, look at what happened to Toby Mac's son, like recently, like in the last year or so. And like that album, Life After Death, we discussed it with our first podcast episode. Life After Death is a powerful album. It helped change you, especially the song 21 Years. Like that's a big thing. That song released when I was just turned 21, like a week before I turned 21. And that's a big song. So I know if you're struggling with a loved one, I would recommend following Toby Mac's journey, listening to Life After Death. Like, it's about his album is pretty much just life after death. It's like the easiest way to explain it. Like there's hope after losing a loved one, and Toby Mac offers a bright insight on that.
Yeah, and if you haven't heard his story about losing his son and such, go check out his interview with Good Morning America, because it's quite inspiring, insightful, and just really, if you don't understand that depth of mourning and grief, is heavy. Like, even in the past week, I lost a mentor and a friend to breast cancer. And it was very, like, it's one of those things, you knew it was coming, but you just hoped it never would. And so yeah, like, hug your loved ones. Like, I don't know, just there's so many in-depth things you could tell people, but like, I just feel like people need to know they're loved, that there is hope, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. For me, it's like, life isn't always going to be beautiful, it's not always going to be easy, but it's worth living. And I feel like that's what people need to know.
And don't, this is gonna sound like weird, but like, don't like let the small things bother you. Like, I know like people deal like, oh, I have to be perfect. Like I have to dress perfectly for someone to like me. Don't care what people think about you. Just live your life the way you want to live it. Like we were all made to be different and unique and special in our own way.
Amen.
true.
For sure.
And like, so like we're running out of time, unfortunately, today, but I had a great time discussing this with you guys. Like we said, if you're reaching out, get some help. We'll drop some resources for you. If you guys enjoyed listening to this episode, I recommend sharing this to try to change the life of someone you know, sharing with someone you know that's struggling. Hopefully this can help them out. And we just had a great time. Is there any final words you guys want to share?
I just want to encourage people to do our Christian music bros a favor and go to iTunes, Spotify, subscribe to this show, and give them a rating, because it really helps them continue to further their ministry. I know you guys are doing this for free, like you're not looking for cash grabs or anything like that. And I've been inspired after this interview, so I know that people that are listening have as well. So if you can, do our guys a favor and go give them a follow on all the social media platforms, subscribe to their channel on YouTube, subscribe for the audio podcast, and give them a rating. Like, little things like that are worth their weight in gold. So do better. Like, do our guys a favor. Come on now, don't be stingy.
And also look up Trevor's podcast as well. He has hosted his own podcast in Trevor Talks. You can follow his journey around. He's on Instagram, he's on Twitter, he's on YouTube, he's on like all the platforms we are. So easy enough.
Just all the platforms. The easiest way to find everything is just go to trevortalks.co. Again, that's the website, trevortalks.co, and you can listen to the show straight from there, sign up for email, all that good stuff. Social media links are there. So,
or Google us. You could maybe find us on Google.
yeah, if you Google Trevor Talks, all you'll see is my face pop up, like or something. So it's fun. I enjoy it.
Google knows everything.
Google knows us. AI.
We should make a Wikipedia page. I'm kidding. A second.
Good luck.
But again, thank you for everyone that tuned in this week. And I hope some of this inspires you guys moving forward. And I hope you all have a great week. And we will see you next time.